Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. Cats. We need to address something before we do this album. One of the greatest albums ever, yeah? But there's something that I don't want to talk about. It has to do with boats. I don't want any mention of even a dinghy, a schooner, any boat of any kind, any nautical vessel, nothing. Any seafaring ship. Let's just keep it out of there because these guys get pissed about that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
All right, cool. But can we talk about yachts?
Dude, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music Explored.
Explored, brought to you today by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com for your jazz lesson needs.
Woo, you really stored that one up there. I like it.
I got a lot of energy coming off that Black Cow, man. That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That's Bob DeBoo on bass.
Oh, yeah.
That's Kaleb Kirby
Come
at
on
the
now.
drums.
Yeah, we were so excited to have those guys with us on this show.
Yeah.
Sounding great. Peter, today we're talking about, this is a biggie for me.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
I don't think anyone else ever noticed this record, so you're good. Like we're going to fly under the radar on this.
Nobody's going to be finicky about this one, right?
This is Steely Dan's Asia.
Their 1977 masterpiece and commercial masterpiece.
Yes.
Asia.
And I used to think this was, because I was a young lad when this record came out and when I became aware of it, I used to think it was Aja. Or Aja.
Oh.
Because it's, like you're looking at the, on the radio, they'll never really say, like you'll hear the music and you'll see the album and it's AJA.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they probably never played the title track on the radio, especially when you were a kid, right?
If they did, it was not past the 4-minute mark. I know that.
Definitely wouldn't have been, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I have a different relationship because I was not of this earth when this album came out.
Interesting.
I was not quite here.
77.
Yeah.
You hadn't seen, you don't know nothing about no 77.
No, but I do remember my father, shout out Lester Manis, had a giant stereo system set up with like a old wooden box as like the case.
Yeah.
Very 70s.
Yeah.
And I remember a few different album covers. I remember the Ohio Players Honey album. I remember that very vividly, actually.
That was a nice cover.
It was a great cover. I remember Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak, which my dad was a huge Thin Lizzy fan at the time. And I remember this. I remember Steely Dan's Asia. Striking cover, which we'll talk about more later in the show in the categories. But man, and then I remember hearing it for the first time on that turntable.
Yeah.
And then if you haven't heard Asia on vinyl, and I know this sounds ridiculous, and snobby, but it sounds so good, man.
Right.
Like that the opening Black Cow sound with the clavinet down low, and the bass and the drums. It's beautiful.
We could add that to our questions. Is this the best opening of an album, just sonically?
I mean, it's got to be top 10.
It's so great.
It has to be, right?
Oh.
Can you imagine a better setting than that opening of Black Cow, which we'll listen to in a minute. But man, a couple of things that we might set the table.
Yes.
So we mentioned it was recorded in 1977. It was actually, this album was nominated for Album of the Year in 1978. It lost to Fleetwood Mac's Rumors.
Well, that was a big record, my friend.
I mean, you can't really fault anybody from that. The only Grammy it won was for Best Engineering, non-classical.
But that's a big, I mean, I think that's held up. You know what I mean? That checks out. I think that this is an incredible, this is the kind of thing that you want to put on some headphones, which I hadn't done in a while, and I did yesterday.
Yeah.
And it sounds so good. Like the panning on it is so interesting and innovative and artistic. Like there's so much attention to detail. The playing is great, but I think the sound on this album might be the sleeper hit of it.
Well, let's get to the sound of the album. So let's listen to a little bit of the first track, Black Cow, and then we can even go deeper with some of these stems here. So here is the opening track of Asia.
I'm sorry, my friend. Did you say stems?
What? This is Black Cow. By the way, for our piano nerds out there, this is Joe Sample on the clavinet.
Yeah.
And this is Victor Feldman on the Rhodes. And Victor Feldman, by the way, who we'll talk about in a minute, all over Asia.
Yeah.
All over all these Steely Dans. So
several instruments.
Several instruments. Here is the opening to Black Cow. Come on. It doesn't get better.
There's space in there. There's so much space and precision.
In the corner
Woo! Man.
of my eye, I saw you in Rhodes.
Donald Fagen
Were very high. You were high.
is lead vocals on this, on most of the Steely Dan by this point of their trajectory.
His lead vocals may come up in a little segment, a new segment we're going to be introducing later on called Quibble Bit.
I mean, he's got such a cool, distinctive voice for me.
So cool.
It is like
it couldn't have been anybody else.
1 second of it, and you know exactly who it is.
Can we go back and just?
Well, hold on. I want to say I want to listen to a couple things.
I can see this is a great new format we have. We're going to be doing some of this. No. I want to listen.
Oh, yeah.
No, you got it.
With the lazy Suzette. So just listen to this. Here's just the drums, right?
Oh, you have.
It's Paul Humphrey on the drums.
Paul, I was going to say, do you know there's 6 different drummers on this album?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But listen to how those drums sound, man. Isn't that incredible?
It's an incredible sound. The thing is, like, that is not like a super funky, obviously it's a backbeat groove. He's in the pocket.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not like the nastiest groove. I don't know. What do you think, Kaleb? I mean, to me, it's not really like, it's not like this nasty groove, but combined with the sound, it just gives it that.
Well, and one of the themes of this record is they sound gorgeous. They're pristine. The precision of them is incredible. Yeah. Here's that same section with everything but drums. So here you have guitar, bass, and Joe Sample on the clavinet.
Oh. And they've got this clavinet somehow hard pan with the reverb. Put some headphones on this. What did the youngins say? Headphones on.
For those of you that don't know, clavinet was an instrument that was super popular 60s and late 60s and 70s and beyond. Think Stevie Wonder's Superstition. Incredible.
That's everything that guitar with those simple triads on top of the C7. It's interesting. This is the way that the table is set for this record with this intro.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to talk we're not going to get deep into the lyrics and stuff because I don't understand them. As much as I've heard them from so many years, it's such a mystery. But like there's certain references that come up. Obviously, there's some drug stuff right at the beginning of the album. So to me, that always set the tone, even though this is not a drug lyric album.
Oh, you're talking about the accusation of you were high right there?
It's because musically, it connects so much. But it's like musically, I think that this is a record that has all these little isms, little instances of blues. And to me, because even though this isn't a blues, and Deacon Blues, which is called a blues, is not a blues either. There actually is a blues on here.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a minute, yeah.
But this is bluesy or blues adjacent, you know what I mean? It's that dominant seventh.
Can I bring
it's a 13 chord.
Can I bring what I'm thinking up?
Oh, exactly. That's 13 chord.
So listen
Whole
to this.
step below.
Listen to the harmony of the horns there.
Yeah.
Right? So that sound, that sort of like you mentioned, the 13, or you might call it the 6, but listen again. We'll listen with no vocals and listen just a little bit when the
guitar comes in.
Yeah, right. That. Same thing. That's exactly the same voicings as Freddie Freeloader.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we're working with. Here's just the vocals on their own.
In the corner of my eye, I saw you in Rhodes. You were very high. You were high.
Great background vocals.
Yeah, and that was just Fagen kind of like doubled, and then the backgrounds came in on the you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's so good. I mean, the precision that's there, the precision on the drums, the bass. I mean, like everything is like beyond bespoke. It's bespoked.
And then can we talk a little bit about Victor Feldman on this? And I just want to, like, to me, this is amazing. Victor Feldman, who would have been a little bit older than these guys.
Yep. A little more British, too.
A little more British, was a jazz pianist. In fact, Victor Feldman famously was responsible for this Miles Davis track. The composer of Seven Steps
and he's
to
playing
Heaven.
on this.
And he's playing on.
I don't know about this version.
He's playing on this album.
Yeah.
Ironically, I think this might be Herbie on the song.
Maybe he's on part of it.
But he splits the album with
Tony
Herbie.
Williams. Yeah.
But he's on a bunch of Cannonball records.
Yeah.
He plays vibes. He's got his own music.
He's playing marimba on
this.
On Asia.
But he goes from this in the early 60s to, I mean, he's on most of Steely Dan stuff in the 70s, and he plays this beautiful Rhodes solo here.
Yeah, this is a good solo.
Again, Joe Sample on the clavinet, Victor Feldman on the Rhodes.
That's very like that harmonic movie, very Herbie Hancock M1D coming with those chords, the susses and the major sevens. Like and we're going to probably talk about, throughout this kind of the jazz influences of this record.
Oh, there's so many.
You know what I mean?
We'll get to it in the next track specifically.
And that was a great one with the Freddie Freeloader. I never caught that one.
So check out, I just want to give another shout out to Paul Humphrey here. Check out this fill in the middle of the chorus of the Rhodes solo. Listen. Woo! That's all he needs.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
It's great. Everything like that
great.
kind of stuff, the stuff Gadd plays on Asia, like it's all, especially from the drums, it's like the best, most inspired studio playing ever. You know what I mean? It's just like this is not the way they would play it live. This is like in the studio, you can hear every little, like that would totally get lost in a club or something. That little, but then we can sit there and I mean, that was like, and that's what I think the engineering is such a good thing. It's not just the sound and the cool panning on the clav and stuff. It's like that's brought out. Like you can tell there's intention for us to even be able to hear that and notice that.
And there's also just a ton of lore about the tracking and the mixing of this. It took them over a year to produce this record.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't know, something like Michael Jackson's Thriller was done in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I think it was like
the tracking of
it was like 6 weeks or something.
The vocals took some time.
This took a year total to get all the tracking and the mixing together. But you can hear the precision, you can hear the detail, you can hear the quality. And this is something we can maybe talk about either now or later. But like, I think when people if there's any gripes about Steely Dan ever, it's almost that it's too good, which is an interesting thing to gripe at. But it's like, it's so clean. It's so pristine. It's so beautiful. Donald Fagen, I think almost, if it wasn't for the graveliness of his voice and the rawness of his voice, like if you had Michael McDonald on Steely Dan, it would almost be too much. It would almost be like too syrupy.
Right.
Because
he's on here in the background.
He is on the background. But you know what I'm saying? Or if you had like just someone,
where's the grit? Where is the dirtiness going to come on this record? I think it does come from Fagen's voice and from the crazy lyrics and stuff. Everything else is just so, top shelf. It's like going into a bar where everyone is dressed right and they only have the best stuff. And then you have one guy who's a little bit like slovenly and he's drinking some Jim Beam,
I can actually think of a moment that it becomes very organic and very raw, and is maybe the apex of this entire album, and it comes from the next track, Peter.
Yeah.
The title track.
Yes.
Asia.
Yeah.
So again, Victor Feldman on piano here.
Yep. That's like probably one of the best studio piano sounds of an acoustic I've ever
That's what I'm
heard,
saying.
You know,
everything.
it's not a jazz piano sound.
No.
It's a studio piano sound. That keys up at top, the Rhodes, right there. And it's like very actively mixed on that piano, you can tell. And that's Victor Feldman on marimba as well, I believe.
Oh, sorry. This isn't Victor Feldman.
Is that Sample?
No, this is Michael Omarion on piano. That's my band. This is Joe Sample on electric piano. Yeah,
On electric, right.
Yeah, Victor Feldman's doing percussion on this one. That's right.
Right here. Like, the melody's very simple. Harmony, super complex.
Dude.
You know, right here. Major 7 sharp 11, major 7 sharp 11. A little breaking up of the time there. We're not in 4/4 for a minute.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in here.
So, jazz rock?
Well, like, especially you take out these little segments, yeah.
It's not yacht rock, and we should not disrespect.
My only quibble bit with it being a jazz
According
rock,
to General Beato and Donald Fagen himself.
I definitely don't think it's yacht rock, but
Yeah.
I think. Oh man, the way that
I know,
piano draws.
everything. I know.
No, my only quibble bit with with it being jazz rock, like I don't know if this is really a rock album. You know what I mean? Would you classify this as a rock? I mean, who cares, right?
I don't. You
It's
know
not
how
a
I feel
jazz
about
record.
genres.
It's super jazz influenced. But if you think about it, the great things about this record to me, the precision, like this record was Frankenstein together. It was like a lot of the most spontaneous moments, and I know we're going to talk about the apex moment, that I know from an interview was not done live together. It was layered up with several different versions and then put together and stuff. And I think a lot of this record was like that. And so that's kind of the antithesis of a jazz record. If you think about the greatest jazz records, A Love Supreme, even Kind of Blue, and you know, like where it's recorded very quickly, the spontaneity of the moment. I mean, Kind of Blue, you can hear Miles comes in 2 beats early and they leave that in and it becomes a part of, like, the beauty is in the imprecision.
Yeah.
Right? The beauty is in the humanity of it being raw, but like very grooving, and like you can actually feel the intimacy of the exchange of spontaneity between the musicians. Here, they've created that. It sounds like when Steve Gadd and Wayne Shorter are soloing together, it sounds like they're going for crazy. Steve Gadd had already laid that down.
I know,
before
man.
Wayne, I mean, so this is like a crafted thing to make it feel like something. And I think it's great. I'm here for it, for sure. It's
Well,
just the opposite of how a jazz record would be made.
So this brings me to like what I think is the most raw, the most beautiful moment, maybe the apex moment. We could talk about this because this could be the apex moment. And this, I know, Asia, this is your pick for the Desert Island track. This is your favorite track
That's my
on
Desert
the album.
Island track.
And I think the apex moment of the entire album, ironically, happens on the second track. I think this is where it peaks. But I also have another thought on this. But it is in that solo of Wayne Shorter,
Yeah.
where Steve Gadd just goes crazy.
Minor 11, Heaven. So
Sue me. Wayne Shorter makes everything, literally everything better. I mean, so Wayne Shorter, of course, famously with Art Blakey, with Miles Davis, but also played with Steely Dan, played a lot with Joni Mitchell. Of course, Weather Report in the 70s was his band.
Co-led.
Yeah. And I want to play that section one more time.
Yep.
And just listen to what Steve Gadd is doing. This is underneath what Wayne's doing. What?
I mean, the thing about it is, if you take what Steve Gadd's playing separately, you take what Wayne's playing, you take that apart, they're so good that, like, it's actually not that impressive what they're doing. Like, Wayne's solo is not like any different than he would do at any other. It's not like the apex moment for his solos, but a lot of people would be like, oh my God, that's my favorite Wayne solo.
Yeah.
The moment that they put together, same thing with Steve Gadd, he can play like this in his sleep. Like, oh, give me the hits.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Well,
you know?
if you're not familiar with Steve Gadd, so famously the year before he recorded this. right? Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover from Still Crazy After
and this
All These Years.
is kind of more creative kind of playing for Steve Gadd.
This is like his shtick.
Yeah,
This is like his thing, you know. Great. That's a great sound too.
Yeah, but it's just to say that like on Asia, I think it's the combination, the sound being so good, the way they put it together with Wayne coming in and just kind of layering on top. Like Steve Gadd is not comping behind him. He's soloing.
Yeah.
And then Wayne came in and recorded that
over
on
the top of it.
So the vision, I think, of Fagen and Becker and the whole, the team and how they did this stuff and put it together is really what it's about. So it's almost like, okay, we know Wayne Shorter's going to be able to come in and play over one chord, but not playing away. He's not doing any of that kind of stuff. But this way that he plays is very much how he was playing, right? Even before this with Weather Report, Cucumber Slumber, a lot of that kind of those tracks, I'm thinking like this is the way he would come in. And I would consider Weather Report much more jazz rock than Steely Dan for some reason, because it's got so much more of that spontaneity. Like they're playing with, like you couldn't imagine a lot of that stuff, them not doing it live.
Yeah.
Whereas this, we know it's not live, but it's great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a different thing.
I was just thinking about Donald Fagen and Walter Becker and just the amazing music that they made for 50 years probably together.
Yeah.
And just like this tradition of duos, like, I mean, Steely Dan had many iterations and they kind of shedded members as they got older and older. Yeah. And it was obvious it's just the two of them that are sort of the core of what's going on. But you think, of course, like Lennon McCartney, you think of like, even to like the lads from Oasis, you think of obviously Steely Dan. Well, they are lads. Yeah. These two guys. Madison Martin.
Yeah, Madison Martin.
No, but there's something about this. I think is why like you think of Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, like these people that bounce these things off of each other in these pairs. I guess sometimes trios too, but like it's really there's something about a pair where you trust each other, you have a similar goal in mind, and then yet you hold each other accountable. You don't let your partner get away with too much bullshit, and you hope that they don't let you get away with any bullshit. Like you really try to like stay. When one of you falters, you stay the course, or when someone's faltering, they stay the course.
And then absolutely. And bringing complementary skill sets. There's something about,
that's nice.
Like, because I love
you
that.
said it was nicer.
Well, no,
this is why we're such a good team.
But an awareness of that. Like, that's partly luck. It's like, who do you team up with? And then you've got the different elements. But I know that there's stories about, Fagen was going crazy because I guess Becker was they both were like perfectionists and like, it's got to be like this. Yeah. But I guess Becker's going crazy with the drums got to be this. Fagen's like, I can't even be in here anymore. You guys, they're sitting there for hours just about one tom-tom sound or something. So there's different skills that they bring to being able to clue in on and being able to execute on. But yeah, it's the finished product.
Do you want to hit up that last solo before we check out?
Oh, yeah. Well, so I like this. So Gadd has two solos. He played them both as solos, I believe. But then after they come back to that B minor 11 and, make sure you check out. We're going to talk about the Nerd Nook, but we'll do that later.
The what?
The Nerd Nook.
Nerd Nook.
We got a new set. We got a new band. We got new segments here. We're going to talk about that chord in particular because it's on minor 11 is very rare in really any kind of music.
We're going to talk about a few of the chords over on the Nerd Nook. That's for pianists who want to, and musicians who want to kind of go on a deeper dive on the theory. We'll talk about that. That's for open studio members, by the way.
But the thing is, that it's just to say that sound of, and that's what you're hearing during this whole, and this kind of sets it up with this real peaceful thing. Oh, that's a B minor 11. But like, what does that sound give you if you don't know? It's not like minor-y, but it's not major. It's very like kind of floating.
Minor sussy?
It's very
it's not a sus at all.
And then the
minor moo?
Minor moo, kind of. But I think with that syncopation, with that.
I love those synth pads too.
And then all that space in there for me.
All right. For me, this is like, drummers should take note of that.
Yeah.
To come out of a big tom-heavy, fill-heavy solo.
Yeah.
I am such a sucker. And then like apex your solo towards going back to like a groove. That's a groove that maybe nobody's heard in this song yet.
Yeah.
But there's no bigger.
And this is like 7 minutes into the song. This is at the end.
There's no stankier face than when the drummer transitions from like the fill heavy solo into just like the groove solo.
Yeah.
It makes me want to fall off the back of my chair. I'm serious. Like, it is a hair knocker backer.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's kind of my apex moment. Of course, the Wayne and Gadd, but that one for sure.
Let's talk about this. So the apex moment of the album, undoubtedly the leading candidate has got to be this moment. I mean, if you're, especially for musicians, I feel like the Wayne Gadd interaction, that chord progression at the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just a normie, someone who wasn't a musician, if they would consider that the apex moment. But for me, I think a lot of musicians would have to think that like the appearance of Wayne Shorter on the end of this. I have a little quibbled a bit about this though.
Okay.
So
quibble your bit.
I feel like it happens too early in the record.
Well, this is an interesting thing. So this is the second, we're on the A side. We got 3 tunes.
Did they mess up this track order?
Right, because you're on the second tune, it's 8 minutes long, and you've hit the apex mountain. Even if that's not your favorite moment, it's the loudest, it's the busiest, it's like...
I get what they're going for.
I'm looking at these tracks. Does it go downhill after that?
Well, so this is my real quibble bit. So when we get to quibble bits, we can talk about it. But I just wonder if
we don't have to wait.
No, but I wonder if it's too early for this to be the apex moment. I kind of wonder, Peter, if the apex moment of the entire, like if the album doesn't apex, its peak isn't also my desert island pick,
I was going to say, let's do that.
Is this, the intro. You know what I mean? The bass there. Bob, you got that? All right. All those mu chords going down?
Yeah.
I think this groove, everything here, this is, to me, the apex of Asia, right? So all of this stuff happens, and maybe I'm wrong about the track order. Maybe it feels like an apex because of the Asia track, the 8 minute long, the Wayne, and then you get to Deacon Blues, which is, kind of a chill track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's learn to work the saxophone. Yeah. There's a lot of drinking in this song.
Yeah, but that's at the end of the A side. Like Peg's the beginning of the B side.
That's what I'm saying.
That's important positioning. But don't you think also, can you play the beginning of Peg again? Because this kind of phase thing they do on everything, it's not on one instrument. I think it's on the whole, like the master, right?
It might be.
Or maybe
I don't know. If there's any
Kaleb under there? Or some kind of keys.
I don't think it's on the master, but...
Okay, and then that place when it's boom, instead of going right into the groove, like, man, this whole thing, and then like an extra bar before I think that it just speaks to like the engineering being so masterful on this record and such a big part of it.
That's a huge part of it.
Like because to me that intro and just Peg in general is like, it wouldn't be the apex mountain otherwise.
Yeah. There's some great video that you can find on YouTube of Donald Fagen talking about Peg. And I mean, the great part about it is this verse is a blues, right?
Yeah.
So typical 12-bar blues form, one chord.
Right. But put together in a very unusual way.
Yeah, with those plagal cadences. 4 chord for 2 bars.
Yeah.
Back to the 1 chord. Key of G, and they're all major 7 chords. They're major 6/9 chords. 5 chord.
Yeah.
4 chord, and then back to the 1.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like, in a way, it's interesting because there's bluesiness from the very beginning of the record. We talked about that, and then certainly in Asia, there's actually
on the Black How the Freddie Freeloader things are.
Yes, exactly, and just being on that C7 at the beginning, and like that's some of the groovier kind of stuff that's on here. But the only actual blues doesn't really sound like a blues except for the form of it.
It's a dance track.
Yeah, and this is like major 7 chords, pretty much. So they don't really have that blues connotation, but the form does. So I think it's something that they were really interested in, that they played with throughout the record. There's some stuff on further in the B side too that's blues adjacent.
Yeah. So we can. I do think.
So let's just pin this down. Your desert island track for this is Peg. Is that?
It is Peg. Yeah, and I do light up every single time, even though I've been listening to this for probably 35 years. Every single time I hear it.
Yeah.
Another real quick Peg thing is well known. It's been out there for a while, but the background vocals in the chorus.
No,
St. Louis's own Michael McDonald.
Yeah.
Those high harmonies.
Will come back to you. Then the shadow falls. You see it all. It's your favorite foreign movie.
Isn't that great?
Was that him on everything or just the top one?
No, it's Fagen on the lead, and then he's just on the chorus behind.
Right.
Isn't that great, though?
That's so great.
Little Michael McDonald. So yeah, Peg is my desert island track for this. I mean, it's really hard because, we play Black Cow. It's been in my repertoire for years, Black Cow. It's for maybe 6 or 7 years.
It's been on mine since this morning.
Since this morning. No, I bring it with my trio everywhere. It's always a big, either a good like set starter, it's a great set ender,
Yeah.
it's a great like if I see the audience is like, they need a little pick me up. I always play Black Cow, and people light up with it. You know, so it's hard for me not to pick that. But Peg, which doesn't, well, we should maybe play Peg on the way out and see how we like it. I've never really played it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we just like take the verse and see if we can solo.
Oh, on the actual instruments.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But you are Asia for your Dive Siren. And I do think if we go to, we can start the categories now. So Apex moments, I am going to go with Wayne Shorter and Steve Gadd's amazing coda to Asia. I think it's some of the best playing of the 1970s. Honestly, it's some of my favorite moments of music in the 1970s. That's my favorite decade of music. So that's saying a lot, you know.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, my only reticence on this is like it's so obvious in a way, and I hate for us to double up, but that's the apex moment for me. I mean, there's so many great moments. Like some of the other great moments that I would have thought of are those little details, like those little things, like on Peg with the waiting for a bar on that drum fill, that segue between the intro and the chord, like the verse is great, but that's not like it's just a detail kind of thing. And to me, that's what this record is about. All these fun details. Like this is why this record, when we talk about like Desert Island records and tracks and stuff, like a lot of times we're like, oh, this is stuff we like because it's nostalgic. It reminds us of a certain time. And this kind of does for me, but it's more like, is it something, it's like a movie that you can just watch over and over again. Are you actually enjoying it, or are you just reliving your youth? For this, you're like, for me, I'm excited to hear these details. It sounds great.
Yeah.
It feels great. It's not like like vocally or even like playing wise, as much precision and great playing. This is not like Steve Gadd's deepest grooves or anything, or like Victor Feldman or Joe Samples, like best playing.
It might be apex moment for Victor Feldman, honestly.
Maybe, or like Chuck Rainey. Like, well, Chuck Rainey's a little different on this because he's sort of
but he's on thousands of recordings.
He's on thousands of recordings. Like he did some kind of revolutionary bass type stuff on this, on Peg, where everybody's like bass players geek out on that.
For me, man, I think Feldman steals the record. Like, I think this is I think he's the best part about this. Well, that's not true.
I would almost say Chuck Rainey, just because he's on, like, we have 6 different drummers for 7 tracks, right? Yeah. We got a bunch of great keyboard players coming and going. Chuck Rainey's on everything except one track. And
what's one he's not on?
One of those, on Deacon Blues.
On Deacon Blues.
That's Becker's playing on that. Oh, okay. Yeah, playing bass on that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, we didn't really play Deacon Blues, but you know what? I'm going to be honest. Deacon Blues?
It's not your favorite?
It's not my favorite. No.
Okay. So, the bigger question of, is this a perfect record?
No.
I guess
there's
not,
no such thing. Maybe Thriller.
But this is one that people that throw around, like Thriller, like Kind of Blue.
Yeah.
Like Rumors, maybe, if you're into that.
Rumors might be a perfect record, actually. Yeah. And Kind of Blue might be perfect. I don't know. We'll get into it, but I don't think it's perfect. And we have some quibble bits about that.
Yeah.
Do we want to go there right now? Let's go to the quibble bits right now. Why
quibble bits are fun. So this is a new segment for us. You can figure it out if you were around for the wonderful Ralston Purina commercials of your
quibbles and bits.
Quibbles and bits.
My biggest quibble bit about this is that after Peg, the bangers kind of taper off. And I love Josie, but it's hard to get there sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not that the 2 tracks that are between Peg and Josie are terrible. By Steely Dan standards, they're not their best. Right. But by any other band standards, they're pretty effing good.
But this was a time still in the 70s that there was an expectation once you got to that B-side that things were going to go, not downhill, but there was going to be a little bit of
they were going to get weird.
A little bit of, if they were going to get weird, there was going to be a lull. I think a lot of times as jazz musicians, we're like, ooh, that's the good stuff. And on this, it's kind of like, the good stuff is stacked up on the second track, right?
And I think the B-side of this could have had they could have had some kind of ambience, like an ambient track, a slow ballad.
Well, hold up, ambient?
I know. Everything is driving on this album. Everything has a groove from the beginning. Yeah. I want a slow ballad.
Tree? Come on, man.
I know.
But this is like, I like this because it's like moving to another thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, does this belong on Gaucho though?
Yeah, well, maybe that's why it's like...
You know what I mean?
Well, Gaucho was before this, though.
Gaucho was the one after this.
Oh, it was after? Yeah. Well, that's perfect.
I think it goes right to Gaucho, which maybe it's a great... that's what I'm saying. Joe's a great track. But I don't know if there's the 2 that are between Peg and Josie. I don't know. For me, it just lulls. I would have loved to have some kind of like really quiet moment on the album. I think would have been cool. But that's why I think it's not perfect. I think it's like a 9 out of 10, but I don't think it's
You're right, because this is a little quibble bit for me. This is not my favorite moment of the record. This little piano. I mean, it's tight like everything. The groove is cool, but
This gives me, so I want to shout out. What track is this? Is this Home at Last, right?
Home at Last, yeah. But you know what?
Yeah,
That's
so
the great thing about great records is there's always those ones where you're like, And it's not that you don't like, whoa, sorry about that. It's not that you don't like those tracks. It's just when the level is set high, especially with the songwriting, with the tune, like you always have those ones where you're like, you skipped over them.
That's Victor Feldman again on piano. And this gives us an opportunity to shout out our Open Studio member, Don Breithaupt, who sent me this book that he wrote for 33 1/3.
Great series.
Great series of books. And Don, you just crushed it on here. He interviewed Donald Fagen for this.
Yep.
He had some incredible insights about the production, even about the harmony and things like that. So pick up your Asia by Don Breithaupt. It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, my quibble bit. It's just a small thing. Deacon Blues is not a blues. Okay? No, I have a pet peeve about this. Even like going
it's a
back
drink, right? It's like supposed to be a drink.
I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought Black Cow was a drink.
I think it's all drinks, man. I think they were drinking a lot at this point.
I thought they were doing drugs. They were drinking too, man?
Well,
what's going on?
They were having fun.
Okay. So no, I mean, I'm not a big fan of that. Maybe even going back to like old standards, like I've got the right to sing the blues. That's not a blues. Don't call it a blues. Anyway, that's small.
That's small
for me because this is a great record. But I would agree on the lull on side B. It was just more expected and accepted.
Okay, what about another category here? Bespoke playlist title.
Oh, yeah.
So if this were going to go on a Spotify playlist, what would be some examples of the titles of the playlist? I have a few.
Yeah. Well, why don't you hit yours first? Because I'm actually amending mine.
These are all with love, by the way. I just want to point that out. So first
Shout
would
out
be
Fagen.
Hi-Fi Store Demo Jams with a Z.
I love that one because that's actually a playlist I would subscribe to.
There's no way
Subscribe
that a
to.
hi-fi salesman in the early 80s didn't use Asia every single time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they're probably still using it. Because you put that on a hi-fi store in 1981?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. No, I think I actually love tracks that I love a good curated list or association of tracks that sound great with headphones, that sound great with good monitor speaker. They can be all different styles, but for sure this would be up there. So mine's kind of silly. I've got jazzy yacht rock.
Jazzy yacht rock.
Yeah. Because I had yachty rock that swings, but this doesn't swing.
That's offensive.
It's highly
Yacht rock is offensive. I have, this one's not though. I have Cialis commercial bangers.
Speaks for itself.
You know how like in Cialis commercials, they're always going to like a smooth jazz fest?
I said it speaks for itself.
Okay.
You know,
and then I have one more. If you've seen the Yacht Rock documentary, which they called Donald Fagen, actually Rick Beato has a great thing on why he doesn't use Yacht Rock, and he mentions this interview.
Yeah.
And so the playlist could be Go F Yourself Rock. And if you saw that documentary, you know what that's about. What about up next, Peter? Like, so if something were to autoplay, if an album were to be a part of this, maybe unexpectedly, because obviously any other Steely Dan.
Like a really good up next.
Like a really good and maybe surprising up next.
So I got Mysterious Traveler by Weather Report. Like I would love to hear that, especially if I'm coming out of Asia, thinking about Wayne Shorter, solo Steve Gadd, the way, like that would lead me right into this, a similar kind of spirited playing of Wayne Shorter, a little bit earlier than this, I guess. Not much though. And a little bit of an offbeat. It's not their best known, partly because there's no Jocko on that record, but it's a great record, kind of under the radar, Mysterious Traveler.
I have Michael Jackson's Off the Wall.
Yep.
Which is more of a disco album. We were talking earlier, but I do think it would be a good next to each other kind of situation, right? Similar textures.
Yep.
Yeah. And then also I have Herbie Hancock's album from 2008, I believe, The Joni Letters.
Yes.
Also featuring Wayne Shorter. And there's something about that album that, I don't know, it has Asia remnants to it. You know what I mean? It's all the music of Joni Mitchell, which I think is definitely a co-category here. Like Joni's Court and Spark would be a nice pairing with Asia as well.
For sure.
But for some reason, the Joni letters they spoke to me.
Good. Yeah. Okay, we talked about, is this a perfect album? And you said no. I'm thinking it's an uber clean studio sound, but very high level. And you know, I think it feels like they're trying to make a perfect album. And I think that was kind of a part of the Steely Dan thing. It's like, let's craft this perfect thing. And I think it's, for whatever it is, it's a great record, but it's not perfect.
I agree. I don't think it's perfect for the reasons I mentioned. I think it has that little dip where, again, really good songs, but not equal to the other 5 on the
Yeah.
album. And yeah, I wonder too, how snobby do you think this album is? What does it get on the Snob-o-meter?
Yes. Well, the Snob-o-meter, can you just give me a quick?
So Snob-o-meter is a rating system of 1 to 10,
1 to
where
10, got
1 is the least snobby thing. My Aunt Linda would love it. My Aunt Linda,
Right.
not a fan of like, you know, with love, with complicated music. She likes melody.
Does she like Katy Perry?
No,
Oh.
too excitable.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's just
Taylor Swift.
That's just because my Aunt Linda's 80 years old. But
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
but just in general, she likes digestible things, palatable
Digestible,
things.
okay.
And then the 10, we always use Ethan Iverson, the great pianist from the Bad Plus fame, as the sort of 10,
Right.
the avatar of the snob. Not because he's like stuck up or anything, but because he's got impeccable taste.
Right. So I'm going 5 on this because, I mean, in general, Steely Dan can be like really high on the Snob-o-meter for a lot of the reasons that we've talked about. But
Yeah.
because this is their most commercially successful, it sold them most number of records.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the number one that a lot of snobs would be like, oh no, but have you checked out Pretzel Logic?
Pretzel Logic would be like 8.5.
That's right. Right. So it's more just sort of perception.
I'm going to agree with you. I think it's right in the middle. I think it's a
Although
5.
Wayne Shorter being on it, that pushes it a little snobbier, kind of.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But Gadd kind of pulls him back. You know what I mean? Is it better than Kind of Blue?
No.
No. That's easy. Accoutrements. Album
Wait, you
cover?
said maybe.
I know, and I thought about it and I said no. I was still thinking
That
about it when I
B-side's
said
killing
what I
you,
read.
isn't
Yeah.
it? Accoutrements album cover, I give it an 8. It's very good, but it's these kind of records, and we can look at it there. It's just, you know, it's like, how do you take it away? Like the legend of it's so connected with the sound, with the time, with your experience with it. But if you were to show me, hey, I'm thinking about this as a record cover I'd never seen, I'd be like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I gave it a
Okay.
9. I think it's amazing.
Okay.
I think it's distinctive.
Yeah.
I love everything. I love the imagery. I can't really see this person's face. I think it's a woman, but I only see this like red and white stripe down the middle, and I just love the whole look of it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. So, hey, how about a little comment? How
do you like the new format?
we don't want to talk about it too much, but we did change everything.
Yeah.
Leave a comment in the YouTube comments about what your favorite track is on Asia. Let us
Yes.
know how wrong we are.
Right. Or
about
how right
those.
we are.
Yeah. And
we accept either.
And you can actually leave a comment. Did you know this? You can leave a comment on Spotify now?
Let's not encourage that because I don't know how to do it. I don't like people doing stuff that I don't know how to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Did you guys notice we're not in the pod front anymore? For the OG listeners, don't worry, it's still right over there, but we've moved in here.
I like it in here, man. It's nice in here.
Yeah.
It's warm. We've got Kaleb and Bob.
Yep.
Well, also for Open Studio members, because we've got a ton of Open Studio members
Yep.
that listen to the pod, over on The Hang, which is our community,
Yes.
check out
Award-winning community.
Award-winning community.
Headed up by Bob DeBoo.
Go to the Nerd Nook. We're going to be talking just after this. We're going to make a little video breaking down some of the chord voicings that you might hear here.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And-
do that B minor one for sure. There's that other Moo one. Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
Yeah. Should we maybe go out on some Peg
Yeah.
and like maybe just see what we can do with the verb? I've never played this, but I know what the voicings are.
Yeah,
We
what
should-
key is it in?
G. Key of
G. We're gonna start
and
with
it's like
that.
got that plagal thing.
Yeah.
Nerd Nook.
Oh, he's
That's
playing
Nerd
it.
Nook talk.
That's right. That's right. Good.
Yeah.
Well, until next time,
You'll hear it.
you'll hear it.